Listen very carefully. The piercing screech of metal grinding against the cold rock is blending with the howling wind rushing through sharp cliffs. At this very moment, the blue dot on your navigation screen begins to flicker fade and then disappear completely. No signal, no bars, no connection. The civilized world you once knew, where there are solid road barriers and rescue teams on duty day and night, has officially closed. You have just crossed the fragile boundary of safety, pushing yourself deep into some of the most brutal and deadly lands on Earth. Here, nature refuses the presence of humans. Smooth roads are suddenly taken away, replaced by slippery mud, cracked layers of permafrost, and endless voids waiting to swallow everything. The boundary between a heartbeat and permanent silence at the bottom of a deep abyss is now measured only by the width of a trembling tire track. Your palms are soaked with sweat, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Your breathing becomes rapid as the air thins at altitudes of thousands of meters. Every small sound of gravel breaking under the tires is enough to tighten your chest. The feeling of safety inside a multi-ton steel machine suddenly disappears, replaced by a deep, primitive fear rising in your mind. It is time to realize that in these farthest places of the world, human rules do not exist. Look straight ahead, where the road seems to fade into a gray fog, and ask yourself, are the hands gripping the wheel truly controlling this powerful machine? Or from the moment you crossed the boundary of life, is the brutal pull of gravity the one holding absolute power? Are you ready to risk your life? Ready? Because once your tires roll past this line, there will be no turning back forever. You are staring at a straight strip of concrete the color of gray clouds stretching endlessly. There are no sharp turns to keep your mind alert. Here you look in every direction and see only a cold gray surface of water merging with a horizon that offers no escape. Welcome to the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway in the United States. The first span was completed in 1956, and the second span was built in 1969, forming a straight line connecting Metairie to Mandeville in the state of Louisiana. From above, it is a great engineering marvel symbolizing the ambition to conquer nature. But when you sit behind the wheel, confined inside the narrow cabin, it quickly turns into an unforgiving psychological prison. There is no changing scenery, no landmark to hold on to, only the steady sound of tires rolling over metal expansion joints, creating a deadly hypnotic rhythm aimed directly at your nervous system. This brutal monotony is the hidden enemy that has taken countless lives. On average, each decade, this road witnesses dozens of devastating accidents where massive trucks and family cars crash through the guardrails and plunge straight into the murky lake below, simply because the driver falls into a momentary mental lapse. The greatest danger does not come from steep cliffs or storms, but from the absolute isolation pressing against every window of your vehicle. You pass the first mile, the 10th mile, then the 20th mile, and the vast surface of the lake gradually erases all sense of space and time. Hallucinations begin to creep in. There is no emergency lane to stop, no solid ground to take refuge. And two, a primitive fear begins to rise as you tap your trembling finger against the dashboard, watching the fuel needle slowly drop toward empty. And then the worst happens. A thick wall of fog, dense like a morning veil, rises from the lake and engulfs the entire vehicle, erasing all direction. Your visibility is now reduced to a vague gray void. The sound of your own engine echoes alone across the vast water. Will you keep pressing the accelerator into that unknown emptiness, risking your life on a road you cannot see? Or will you release the wheel and let the complete void consume you? Leaving behind the haunting stillness of the lake, you find yourself standing at the wide-open doorway of an old iron train carriage swaying violently. The cold, damp air of the highlands hits your face, carrying the sharp smell of burnt diesel mixed with the earthy scent of tropical mud. There are no glass windows for protection, no barriers, only you, a massive machine groaning in pain, and a wild world rushing past right in front of your feet. The railway from Kandy to Ella in Sri Lanka is not just a scenic journey, but a brutal test of courage. Construction began in 1864 by British engineers, and the line carries both the weight of history and the relentless wear of time. Each year, dozens of tragic accidents are recorded here when passengers, in a moment of excitement and carelessness, are thrown out of this carriage by inertia, falling straight down steep cliffs or smashing into ancient trees growing close to the tracks. The romance often praised in postcards vanishes the moment you look down. Just a few inches from the tip of your boots, the rocky ground appears to collapse and crumble into a deep abyss. The endless green tea plantations now look like a vast mouth, ready to swallow you whole. Each time, the train squeezes past a carved mountainside. The metal sides scrape against rock, producing harsh, grating sounds. The air brake system screams sharply whenever the train descends. The carriage tilts through sharp bends, and centrifugal force constantly pulls your body toward the empty void. You grip the rusted metal bar at the doorway, your knuckles turning pale with fear, your sweat-soaked palms slowly slipping. The sound of iron wheels grinding on worn rails rings in your ears like a merciless warning from death. These sounds keep piercing your mind, reminding you of a brutal truth that thousands of tons of steel filled with human lives are balancing desperately on a narrow edge of stone. And amid the roaring engine that shakes your chest, a chilling question runs down your spine. What will really happen next if the cracked and fragile ground, supporting those rusted rails in just a single heartbeat, suddenly gives way and pulls everything into nothingness? You are forced to keep turning the steering wheel without pause. You must throw your entire body weight into 10 turns, then 20 turns, and finally all 50 hairpin bends, sharp like blades cutting straight into the mountainside. Your vehicle is rushing downhill wildly toward the deep Mediterranean Sea. Gravity now seems to be playing with your mind and your body. Welcome to Sa Calobra Road in Spain. A construction completed in 1932 under the ambitious design of engineer Antonio Parietti. This unreal winding road connects from the rugged base of Escorca down to the remote port of Sa Calobra, hidden beneath steep cliffs. Parietti did not use heavy machinery or explosives to destroy the natural terrain. He preserved the original cliffs and forced the road to twist along an almost unimaginable path. But this engineering greatness becomes a terrifying nightmare for drivers. Here, many horrific accidents have occurred over the decades. And the most common cause is not rockfalls or storms, but the severe destruction of vehicle braking systems. As you begin to descend, the centrifugal force of the Earth is no longer an abstract concept in books. It becomes a visible monster pushing your multi-ton machine toward the edge of the cliff. Each time you steer sharply through a hairpin turn, the machine groans in painful resistance. There is absolutely no straight section long enough for your tires and brakes to cool down. You press the brake, then press again, and keep pressing. Brutal friction generates enormous heat until a sharp, burning smell begins to seep through the air vents. It is the smell of brake pads burning. The smell of extreme danger slowly filling your suffocating cabin. The brake pedal begins to lose firmness. Soft fading and losing effectiveness is one of the most terrifying experiences a person can face on a steep cliffside. Inertia is eager to tear you away from the thin strip of asphalt. You are betting your life on metal pads glowing like burning coals. Your heartbeat accelerates with every rotation of the wheels. You grit your teeth. You tense every muscle in your sweat-soaked arms. You use every instinct of survival to fight against the immense force of inertia trying to consume you. And then, as you reach the final stretch of the towering descent, the Mediterranean landscape appears bright and shimmering under the blazing sun. You exhale in relief and let your shoulders drop. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, is the vast and calm sea crashing just ahead truly a safe refuge? Or is it simply another great enemy? A cold and merciless force patiently waiting for you to slip and sink into the depths. If the brutal dance of centrifugal force in Spain was not enough to drain your strength and courage, close your eyes and let the cutting cold carry you into another nightmare in the vast mountain ranges of Asia. Open your eyes, and what strikes your vision now are 32 hairpin turns stacked mercilessly on top of each other. They twist and coil like a giant serpent, or like a rough and furious scar carved straight into the flesh of the mountain. You are standing before the infamous Zuluk loops in India, perched at an extreme altitude of 11,200 feet above sea level. This haunting and dangerous route connects the barren land of Zuluk up to the high passes of the ancient Silk Road. At this deadly altitude, the air becomes so thin that every breath feels like swallowing shards of frozen glass. Death at the Zuluk loops does not come only from the terrifying slopes. It comes from unpredictable natural traps. On this road, devastating accidents are extremely common. The causes of death are not only due to the insane winding design that defies all safety principles, but also because thick, dense walls of fog can rise from the valley and swallow your vehicle completely in a single moment. In the freezing winter, thin, invisible layers of black ice cover the entire asphalt surface, turning all 32 descending curves into a deadly slide with no friction at all. As you strain your eyes to control the machine through each turn, your arms begin to ache and cramp. Your mind spins and becomes dizzy from the endless sequence of direction changes. Left, right, then sharply left again. You completely lose your sense of space and direction. Your stomach tightens and churns with every violent skid. You are pulled deep into a suffocating rhythm of survival, where you must fight against invisible gravity and the betrayal of your own nervous system. Your concentration must reach the highest possible level. Because just one moment of distraction, just a slip of a few centimeters tearing across the thin ice, and the brutal centrifugal force will instantly throw your machine off the edge, sending it tumbling into the endless void below. You bite your lower lip until you taste blood. You cling to the cold steering wheel like it is the last lifeline of your life. And after hours of brutal physical and mental torture on these deadly curves, your machine finally crawls down to the quiet valley below. You think you are safe. Your muscles scream for rest. You think the solid ground will finally welcome you. But no, the moment you let out a long breath of relief, the gray asphalt beneath your tires suddenly disappears. The familiar sound of tires gripping the road vanishes. Instead, you hear the eerie sound of water flowing beneath the vehicle. You surge forward in shock and realize that the laws of physics seem to be breaking. What will you do to save your life? How will you react when the solid ground you trusted is no longer firm beneath your feet, but floating on an endless, deep surface of water? What is truly waiting for you ahead? You are still in panic, listening to the sound of water splashing beneath your vehicle. You think you have just driven onto a floating, unstable pontoon bridge, but suddenly a gust of wind carrying a biting cold from the distant north strikes hard. The shifting water beneath you instantly freezes solid under your tires. The sound of waves disappears. In its place is a smooth and slippery surface stretching endlessly. You press your face against the window and look again. Beneath your machine is no longer familiar asphalt or solid reinforced concrete. You are actually driving on top of a dark and deep river. The only thing separating your multi-ton vehicle from the freezing depths below is a cracked layer of winter ice, less than 3 feet thick. Welcome to the ice road on the Lena River in Russia. There are no bright, reflective traffic signs here, no safety barriers, and of course, no roadside for you to pull over and rest. This life and death route exists only for a short time from December to April each year. It is the only lifeline connecting the city of Yakutsk, one of the coldest places on Earth, with remote regions buried in ice and snow to the east. Nature here does not need cliffs or steep passes to take human lives. It uses bone-freezing temperatures of -50 degrees and a perfect psychological trap to destroy those with weak nerves. Every year, despite experience and strict precautions, dozens of veteran truck drivers are lost beneath the frozen river. They die from a single miscalculation of the fragile ice supporting them. You sit curled inside the cramped cabin. The heater is turned to maximum, but cannot push away the freezing air slowly numbing your fingers gripping the steering wheel. Every breath turns into white mist covering the windshield. And then a sharp cracking sound explodes through the silence. It sounds like a cold gunshot, announcing that death is near. It is the sound of ice fracturing beneath your vehicle. Here, a cruel paradox of survival is set before you. If you panic and accelerate too fast, the massive energy of your machine will create powerful waves beneath the ice. The invisible force of those waves will break the ice ahead of you. But if you slow down too much, the immense weight of the truck will press the ice downward until it collapses completely. You are trapped in a brutal balance on a thin line between life and death. There is no room for hesitation or mercy on this gray, frozen surface. Imagine the moment when the ice beneath your tires suddenly shatters completely. The dark, freezing water will flood into the cabin within seconds. There will be no sirens, no rescue team arriving in time. The great Lena River will silently swallow your vehicle and erase all traces on the ice as if you had never existed there. You press hard on the accelerator, trying to escape the cold breath of death on the ice. You crave warmth and a piece of dry land, but the trap of the elements never releases its prey so easily. The moment the bone-freezing cold retreats, your chest is suddenly squeezed by a wave of dry and burning heat. You realize in panic that you have fallen from a frozen extreme into a giant furnace with no escape. Instead of a dark river waiting to swallow you, now a vast moving ocean of sand is slowly advancing to finish the work of nature. Towering sand dunes rise hundreds of feet high, like yellow monsters moving forward with the endless desert wind. Welcome to the Tarim Desert Highway in China. Completed and opened in 1995. This isolated road cuts through the center of the Taklamakan Desert, connecting Luntai to Minfeng. In the language of the local people, the name Taklamakan carries a terrifying meaning. It is the place you can enter, but will never return from. Many experienced drivers have lost their way, drifting into endless emptiness, their vehicles buried forever under millions of tons of sand during violent desert storms. On this melting strip of asphalt, danger does not come from below, but crashes down from the burning sky above. A distant roar signals the unstoppable fury of a sandstorm. Yellow dust rushes past your windows. In a single moment, your windshield is completely covered by a thick layer of sand. Visibility drops instantly to zero. Tiny, sharp grains of sand slip through every small gap in the vehicle. They invade the suffocating cabin and choke the air intake of your machine. The engine begins to stutter and groan like a living creature suffocating from lack of air. You panic, hitting the dashboard and turning on the wipers, but they are immediately jammed by the weight of the sand. Inside the dense yellow haze, you lose all sense of direction and time. Your vehicle skids and sways on loose sand, spilling over the road. You are trapped between the brutal fury of earth and wind. Your heart pounds violently as the thought of being buried alive beneath the Arimmel becomes real. And then, when the raging sandstorm finally begins to fade, the dust slowly settles. A grim and haunting truth emerges beneath the gray surface. Your tires roll over. Thousands of engineers and workers sacrificed their lives to maintain this lifeline. Hundreds of unnamed people were buried in this harsh environment to create a road that should not exist. You are breathing air that carries the faint scent of sacrifice. What will you do next? Do you have the courage to press the accelerator and drive across a vast graveyard built from blood and bones? Or will you surrender to fear and turn back? Whatever you choose, remember this. Ahead of you stand sheer walls of stone, waiting in silence. What will happen when your only open horizon is suddenly blocked by a massive wall of rock rising straight into the cloudy sky? You are sitting inside the cabin at an altitude of more than 9,200 feet above sea level. Look out the window. There is no barrier separating your swaying tires from the white clouds drifting below. You are suspended on Abano Pass in Georgia, located at an altitude of 2,826 meters. This rough and dangerous dirt road is the only link connecting the beautiful region of Kakheti with the wild area of Tusheti. Do not let the majestic beauty of the Caucasus Mountains deceive you. This is one of the deadliest roads in the region. At this deadly height, the air becomes so thin that your chest tightens with every breath. Your lungs are desperate for oxygen, and so is the steel machine under your control. The engine begins to choke and struggle as it climbs steep slopes. The tires scrape desperately against loose rocks near the abyss, but altitude is not the most ruthless enemy here. Mountain weather can change life and death in a single moment. Just as you struggle to stay balanced on the edge, a dense and freezing fog suddenly rolls in without warning. Your visibility is instantly erased to zero. You are completely blind in mid-air. You cannot see the front of your own vehicle, nor how close the deadly cliff is to your wheels. Will you press the brake and pray in the thick fog, or risk your life inching forward into the unknown? If you stop, you may be hit from behind. If you move, you may drive straight into death. The moment you escape the suffocating fog of the Caucasus darkness, suddenly collapses around you. This time you are no longer above the clouds, but moving through a half-tunnel carved into rock. A massive overhanging stone hangs above your vehicle, like a giant medieval execution blade waiting to fall. Welcome to the Kishtwar Killar Road in India, also known by locals as the Killar Road. Carved and built in the 1970s, this impossibly narrow road connects Kishtwar to the remote Pangi Valley. Its deadly name is not an exaggeration. It has been paid for with the lives of hundreds of people and countless vehicles that have fallen into the abyss over decades. The space here is suffocatingly tight. Broken and jagged rocks hang directly in front of your windshield, carrying enormous weight ready to crush anything passing below. A single vibration could send them crashing down and destroy your vehicle instantly. The roar of the engine echoes against the rock walls, creating a haunting and ominous sound like a song of death. Your palms are soaked with sweat slipping on the steering wheel. Your vehicle shakes violently over scattered boulders. The right wheel scrapes the mountain wall, while the left wheel hangs dangerously over the edge of a bottomless drop. There is no way back, no space to turn around. You can only move forward under extreme mental pressure. What will happen if another truck suddenly appears from the opposite direction around the blind curve ahead? Who will be forced to reverse on a road barely wider than 2 meters, and who will lose their life forever? But the brutality of rock-cutting machines in India still cannot compare to the madness of structures created by human hands alone. You close your eyes from exhaustion. When you open them, the scene before you is a deadly trap carved directly into the heart of a solid limestone mountain. Along the sheer cliff are rough openings drilled outward. They look like demonic windows staring straight down into a deep abyss. You are entering the Guoliang tunnel, carved into the Taihang Mountains in China. An unbelievable construction completed in 1977. Local villagers used hammers and chisels to cut through the mountain themselves, creating a road stained with sacrifice to connect the isolated village of Guoliang with the outside world. Driving here feels like entering a narrow granite coffin. There are no safety standards. The rough stone ceiling with sharp edges hangs just inches above your vehicle. The tunnel is dark, wet, and extremely slippery. You rely only on faint light coming through the cliffside openings. Many severe crashes have happened here due to the narrow space and poor visibility. You hold your breath and grip the wheel tightly. A small bump that lifts your vehicle by just a few inches could be a death sentence. The impact could slam your roof into the hard rock ceiling and throw your vehicle off the edge. You would fall hundreds of meters into the abyss below with no chance of survival. You inch forward slowly, pressing the brake. Your eyes are wide with fear, staring at the thin tire edge rotating just a hand width away from the cliff. Every sense is stretched to its limit. and at the moment when the suffocating stone walls are crushing your chest, another chilling question rises. The strength of solid rock is terrifying, but can it be more frightening than the fragile weakness of something that can break at any moment? You drive forward into thick gray clouds. You strain your eyes but see no end. Listen carefully. You no longer hear the sound of tires gripping solid ground. Because beneath your vehicle now is a deep, vertical void. You are suspended at a height of 1,181 feet above a dark, rushing river below. Welcome to the Beipanjiang Bridge in China. A massive project completed in 2016. This great cable bridge stretches across a vast void connecting the mountains of Guizhou to the peaks of Yunnan. It holds the record as the highest bridge in the world. But when you are truly here, that record only adds to your fear. As your vehicle moves onto the center of the bridge, the reinforced concrete structure suddenly feels small against the power of nature. The danger does not come from the narrow road, but from unpredictable mountain winds. They rise from the deep valley, accelerate through narrow gaps, and strike violently against your vehicle. The brutal crosswinds here have been strong enough to lift heavy trucks. You feel the chassis shaking. The steering wheel jerks toward the edge beyond your control. Your hands grip it so tightly your knuckles turn white. You are suspended in an impossible vertical space, completely dependent on a structure that seems fragile against the raging wind. What will happen if a sudden vortex forms and exceeds the limits of the steel cables straining outside? But the loss of psychological control does not only happen when you sit behind the safety glass of a cabin. Step out of the steel machine that surrounds you. Let your bare feet face the most primal fear of humanity. This time, you step away from solid ground and place your foot onto a surface made entirely of transparent glass. You slowly look down, and your stomach immediately tightens and churns. Beneath your feet, there is no ground, no steel structure blocking your view, only thin, freezing air and sharp rocks like giant teeth waiting thousands of feet below. You are standing on the Dachstein suspension bridge in Austria, a structure known by a name that can paralyze even the strongest nerves, the Stairway to Nothingness. The fear here is not loud or violent like the mountain winds in China. It is silent and slowly strips away your reason. You stand frozen in the vast emptiness. Cold wind carrying mist from the Alps seeps through your clothes. Moisture begins to form on the glass floor beneath your shoes. The temperature drops, turning it into a thin, slippery layer that carries the seed of death. Your survival instinct screams in your mind. Your heart pounds, telling you to return immediately to solid ground behind you. You follow your instinct and shift your weight to step back. But in that critical moment, something terrifying happens. The sole of your shoe does not grip the surface as you trusted. It slowly slips just a fraction of an inch. Only a tiny fraction, but it is enough to reveal a horrifying truth. A wave of freezing panic runs down your spine. Your heart seems to stop for a moment. Your grip on reality, your trust in safety, your control over your body, all of it is just a fragile illusion ready to shatter at any time. You are completely exposed at the edge of an invisible abyss, paralyzed, helpless, suspended in empty space. What will you do when you realize the final line holding your life is slipping beneath your feet? Do you have the courage to drag yourself step by step back to safety, or will the endless void below call your name? Every deadly path you have just crossed offers no miracle for a second chance. No way to start again. A small steering mistake, a single sneeze, or a fragile strand breaking is enough to send you into the abyss. The natural world is vast, but it never gives its beauty for free. To witness its greatness, you must always be ready to pay a very high price. That price is absolute fear, and a razor-thin line between life and death. After thousands of miles that drained both your body and mind, you now stand at the final boundary. After all the nightmares you have experienced, what will you do? Will you grip the wheel again and drive into the gray fog searching for salvation? Or will you finally release the cold steering wheel, close your eyes, and let the endless void decide your fate?